So, uh, we have here a summary of some of the most basic rules of blasphemy. And so, if you have any question at any time, feel free to ask me, inshallah ta'ala. So, what we have here, the author says here that among what's forbidden is kufr, blasphemy, obviously. Yani, that's the worst forbidden thing. Highest level of forbidden that you can get, blasphemy, because this is the one that's going to result in you being in hell forever if you die with it. The condition for falling into blasphemy is to willingly say something while knowing its meaning, willingly say blasphemy while knowing its meaning, without a slip of the tongue. So it was not a mistake. Yani, without a slip of the tongue means you said what you wanted to say. And without being forced, there's no coercion here. And when it comes to being forced, it means the death threat, because we're talking about blasphemy here. Had it been less than blasphemy, then the coercion could be less. Could be just like someone wants to threaten you to divorce your wife, or threaten you to make a confession, or threaten you to make a sale. And so they might threaten you with beating, or they might threaten you with confiscating your money, or long imprisonment. Then, in those cases, whatever they threatened you to do, if you did what they threatened you to do, it's not actually valid. It won't be valid. If you did the sale, it won't be valid. If you did the divorce, it won't be valid. If you did the confession, it won't be valid because you were forced. Even though this was being forced by less than death threat. But for kufr, has to be a death threat. And has to be a credible one too. Yani the one who's being threatened, he doesn't see how he can get out of this threat. And he sees that the one threatening him is willing and able to carry out his threat. Then, if he does only what he was threatened to do, not more, then the blasphemy won't be valid, meaning it won't happen. He won't be a kafir. We'll come back to talk about that, inshallah. So, without being forced, a person said what he wanted to say while knowing what it means without being forced. Then he committed blasphemy, blasphemous statement, or to do willingly what only a blasphemer does. Then he committed an act of blasphemy, like he stepped on the Quran while knowing it's the Quran, or he spit on it, or threw it in the trash, or sat on it, knowing what it is, or he wore the uniform of the kafir and went into the worship place of that type of kafir and mingled with the people there. Then only a kafir does that. So he would be a kafir. And evidence for this is this saying of Allah Ta'ala. وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ إِنَّمَا كُنَّا نَخُوضُ وَنَلْعَبُ قُلْ أَبِاللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ كُنْتُمْ تَسْتَهْزِئُونَ لا تعتذروا قد كفرتم بعد إيمانكم. If you were to ask them, they would certainly say, we were just playing and engaging each other. O Muhammad, say, is it Allah, His verses, and His messenger that you belittle? Do not make excuses. لا تعتذروا قد كفرتم بعد إيمانكم. You have blasphemed after your belief or after your faith. And what this means here is that you have blasphemed after your display of faith, after your display of faith. Because really, the people involved in the incident for which this ayah was revealed, they were hypocrites. With the meaning that they weren't really Muslims, they were only pretending to be. So if they were hypocrites and not really Muslims, and then they commit kufr after that, Would they be apostates? So the answer is, in reality, they wouldn't be. In reality, they would not be apostates since they were never Muslims. But in judgment, they would be apostates. In judgment. That means we're going to treat them like apostates. Because they displayed Islam. By their displaying Islam means they gave us the impression they were Muslims. So we were thinking they were Muslims. So when they displayed kufr after they displayed Islam, then we had no choice but to treat them as apostates, even if they weren't really apostates. So some people, they actually have the judgment of apostates without being real apostates. But all the rules of apostasy will apply to them. Where's the evidence in this ayah? The evidence here is that they were trying to excuse themselves from the kufr by saying, we were only indulging, we were only playing. We didn't mean to commit kufr. لا تعتذروا, do not make excuses. قد كفرتم بعد إيمانكم. You have blasphemed after your display of belief. Our Shaykh said in the summary, it is not a condition for a person to fall into blasphemy that one must have learned the judgment of the uttered blasphemous words. And he doesn't know the rule pertaining to what he said. He never learned the rule. The judgment means the rule. He didn't know the rule about what he said. So is he excused from the kufr? He's not excused from the kufr. Rather, he should have learned. Yes.
Hey, Sheikh, so I have a question. So the person, so if you go back to that verse, right? So that was revealed about the hypocrites, but it also applies to the ones that that were Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That said the blasphemy, right?
Yes.
But so I have a question. So about jokes and stuff like that, right? Like like playing and making jokes. Sometimes I hear people make jokes, right, in the religion, but I'm like, is this really blasphemy? Like, I question it because it's not like explicit, right? You know, I'm not sure if I'm saying it's making sense.
Hey, so then this is going to go back to another rule, which is if the statement is not clear blasphemy, then it's not permissible to judge the speaker as a kafir.
Got it.
And add something to that. What if in reality it is explicit blasphemy, but the hearer doesn't know? Like he doesn't know it's explicit. He's not sure. He's not sure how to take the statement. In reality, it is explicit kufr, but the one who's hearing it is not sure how to take it. Then for him, it's not explicit. So he's not going to deem that person as a kafir.
Got it. I got it. So I guess it has to be like crystal clear for you. It is blasphemy, right?
Well, there's a difference between the reality and the person's understanding of the situation.
Yeah.
So in reality, if he said explicit blasphemy, meaning in reality, if he fulfilled these conditions right here, which is he willingly said while knowing its meaning, without a slip of the tongue, without being forced, then it's going to be kufr. And it's explicit, then it's going to be kufr.
Yeah.
That's in reality. As for the one who's not sure how to take his statement, then for him, he doesn't have warrant to deem him as a kafir.
Got it. Okay.
So it's not a condition for someone to fall into blasphemy that he has learned the judgment of these words that he's saying. Nor is it a condition that he liked what he said. And nor is it a condition that he believed what he said. Doesn't have to have believed what he said either. As falsely stated in the book called Fiqh Sunnah, So there's a book. Once I went to one masjid, they had a copy right there on their shelf. Excuse me. It was the first time I saw a copy of it. I said, subhanAllah, this is the book the Shaykh has warned us about for years. As falsely stated in the book called Fiqh Sunnah, and that was a translated version too.
MashaAllah.
Anger is not an excuse for one to escape the judgment of falling into blasphemy. Yes. So, add to the condition here. The condition of falling into blasphemy is to willingly say, while knowing its meaning here, regardless of whether you are angry or not, regardless of whether you knew the judgment or not, those are not the condition. That's why they're not here. Because they're not the condition. To be angry or not to be angry is not the condition. So it's not here. To know the rule about what you did or not is not a condition. So that's why a person can't be heedless. Subhanallah. That's how Judgment Day is going to ambush a person. Because he's just in this life heedless. Not thinking about these things. Doesn't care. All he cares about is where's he going to get a cheeseburger. How's he going to hook up with some girl, or how's he going to get some money? That's all he matters. All that matters to the person.
Yeah. So Shay, same thing for being angry, right?
Yeah.
Similar situation that I also sometimes don't understand. It's like sometimes it's not explicit. So when I hear it, I'm like, is this blasphemy? It's like a case where, like, for example, you tell somebody, like, this is the rule, right? And then he's so angry, he's like, I don't care, right? And then you're like, hey, don't say that. And he's like, what I meant is, I don't care to listen to you, right?
Yeah, saying
like,
I don't care, that's not explicit.
That's not explicit, right?
No, okay. Because he doesn't care about what?
Yeah. Okay, got it. Has, yeah,
he didn't say clearly, I don't care about the rule. He might be saying, I don't care about that person's feelings right now, for example, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So what you need to do in these cases is you take the statement itself, separate whatever was the statement that came out the person's mouth from everything else. Investigate the words of the statement themselves. Like in this example you just gave me, when he says, I don't care. He said that in response to something. So it looks like he's saying, I don't care about this religious rule that you tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
But doesn't have to be. It's not necessary. That's exactly what he meant.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Then you don't have enough warrant to deem him as a kafir.
Got it. So basically, it's like, what does he understand from that statement? And it's not explicit for me to judge him as a blasphemer, right? Right.
What does he understand from the statement? What does he mean by the statement?
Yeah.
In this case, not what he understands in this case, but what does he mean?
Got it.
He says, for example, I don't care, but what is that being directed to exactly? What is it exactly you don't care about? Is it exactly the religious rule that I'm trying to tell you? Or is it something related to our context here that's not exactly the religious rule?
Got it. No, makes sense. Makes sense now. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, anger is not an excuse for one to escape the judgment of falling into blasphemy. Concerning this matter, Imam An-Nawawi said, if a man were angry with his child or a young slave and hit him severely, then another person asked him, how could you do this? Aren't you a Muslim? And to that his deliberate answer was no. Then he blasphemed. This was said by Hanafi scholars as well as others. Not the same example was said by them, but the same rule with different examples. The case being that a person could say a single word, some way, somehow, in some conversation. That one word would be a reason for him to be a kafir, to go out of Islam and lose all of his good deeds. This is also proven by the Hasan Hadith of At-Tirmidhi. إن العبد لا يتكلم بالكلمة لا يرى بها بأسا يهوي بها في النار 70 خريفا. There should be a space here between biha and fi. Surely the slave would certainly speak with the word. He does not see anything wrong with it. Or surely the slave would certainly speak with the word, comma, not seeing anything wrong with it. This is a PDF, so I can't fix it right here. Not seeing anything wrong with it. Because of it, yani by it, biha yahwi finnar. Yahwi biha finnar. Biha yahwi. Because of it, he falls. 70 kharifa. 70 autumns into hell. He falls into hell for 70 autumns. So that's the hadith here. So if we pull it apart, what does it mean? Inna al-abida. Surely the slave, the person, the God slave, la yatakallam, would certainly speak. So you have here inna, that's for emphasis. So I said surely. La yatakallam, this lamb here, that's for emphasis too. That's why there's certainly. Surely the slave would certainly speak with the word. Inna al-abda la yatakallamu bil kalima. The word means the word of blasphemy. La yara biha ba'sa. Not seeing. So it's better. Not seeing is better than he does not see. Because the meaning is he speaks without seeing. Yatakallamu la yara biha ba'sa. He will speak without seeing what's wrong with it. Yani, this means while. He speaks while not seeing what's wrong with what he's saying. Not seeing anything wrong with it, he does not see it as harmful. He does not see it as a sin. What's harmful? Ba's. What's a ba's? Something wrong. Yeah, and he doesn't see it as a sin. Not even a sin. This includes joking. That's going to be why he thinks there's nothing wrong with it, because he's joking. And then he's going to say what the comedians always say when there's outrage over what they say. It's just a joke. It's comedy. Where are we now that a comedian cannot be offensive? And like this talk that they give. Invalid talk here. They're going to be so accountable for these things on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Being a comedian is a bad idea, not a good idea. Religiously. And this includes what is said out of anger, like we already said. Anger is not an excuse. But maybe that's why he didn't see anything wrong with it, because he was angry at the time, or because he was ignorant. He didn't know the rules, so he didn't see anything wrong with what he said. But Yahwi biha finnar, because of it, meaning because of saying it, he falls for 70 autumns. Autumn comes once per year, so he falls for 70 years, which is into the bottom of hell. Yahwi biha finnar, ay ila qa'riha, down to the bottom of hell. Yani, he goes into a valley in hell. It's going to be mentioned here. He goes into the bottom of hell, which is a place specific for kuffar. The sinful believers do not go that deep into hell, as proven by a hadith of Al-Hakim, that Al-Wail is a valley in hell, whose bottom is 40 years deep. The bottom is 40 years deep, so that means Al-Wail is already down deep in hell. It's already down deep in hell before you get into the valley. So the believers don't go in there. Its bottom is 40 years deep, but hell is already 70 years deep. So it's already deep in there. The blasphemers will fall into that valley on Judgment Day. And so, one might blaspheme without intending to leave the religion. Yani, without intending to exchange Islam for another religion. As is the case of many of those who are attributed to Sufism. Many of those who are attributed to Sufism, the pseudo-Sufis, but a lot of them are actually atheists, the fake Sufis. And they are grifters, as they say these days. Grifters means they're not really true to the cause. They just there. They found some Muslims and they said, look at these morons. I'm gonna get money out of these guys, maybe something more too. And then he hangs around them and he starts acting like he's a pious guy and he's so detached from the world. And he acts like he fasts all day and like this. And he doesn't believe in Allah really. He doesn't believe in Islam really. And then when people think he's a true Sufi and they think he's a saint, a pious man, then they want to give him money, give him gifts, and they trust him, and like this. More evidence that one does not have to intend to leave Islam to be judged as a blasphemer. Or in other words, one does not have to intend to leave Islam to actually leave Islam. More evidence for that is what was narrated about the Khawarij, the outlaws. Hafiz ibn Hajar said, وممن جنح إلى بعض هذا البحث الطبري في تهذيبه. Among those who have indulged in this subject is At-Tabari in his book At-Tahdhib. فقال بعد أن سرد أحاديث الباب. After listing a number of hadiths on the topic of the Khawarij, he said, في الرد على قول من قال لا يخرج أحد من الإسلام من أهل القبلة بعد استحقاقه حكمه إلا بقصد الخروج منه عالما. He said, in refuting those who said none of the people of the Qibla go out of Islam after deservingly being judged with Islam, unless he intended to go out of Islam knowingly. So, then, that's old talk. That's not new talk in this day of ours. But maybe it's more, because the ignorance is more. Because Al-Tabari is from the Salaf, so that's a long time ago. He's right at the end of the Salaf. And he's a mujtahid. Al-Tabari refuted those who said, here, they said, none of the people of the Qibla go out of Islam after deservingly being judged with Islam unless he intended to go out of Islam knowingly. That's their claim. So, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said that some people made this claim, and among the scholars who refuted this notion was Imam al-Tabari. He's a mujtahid from the Salaf. So, فقال بعد أن سرد أحاديث الباب. Al-Tabari said after producing hadiths concerning the Khawarij, فيه الرد على قول yeah, we could put a colon here after the word bab. فقال بعد أن سرد أحاديث الباب. Do you understand the Arabic, Habibi, or some of it?
No, Sheikh, I don't.
Okay. فقال بعد أن سرد أحاديث الباب. So Al-Tabari said after he listed some of the hadiths about the Khawarij, he said, فيه الرد على قول من قال لا يخرج أحد من الإسلام من أهل القبلة بعد استحقاقه حكمه إلا بقصد الخروج منه عالما. So these hadiths refute whoever says that none of the people of the Qibla go out of Islam after deservingly being judged with it, unless he intended to go out of Islam knowingly. فإنه مبطل لقوله في الحديث. This claim invalidates the Prophet's statement. Yani, that claim debunks what the Prophet said, which means that claim itself is invalid. Because nothing can debunk what the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Had this claim been true, then what the Prophet said would be debunked. What did the Prophet say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said in the hadith about the Khawarij, one hadith, يَقُولُونَ الْحَقِّ وَيَقْرَؤُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَيَمْرُقُونَ مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ وَلَا يَتَعَلَّقُونَ مِنْهُ بِشَيْءٍ. They say the truth, they recite the Quran, and they go out of Islam, and nothing of it sticks to them. So in this hadith is evidence that there are people who see themselves as Muslims, but they're not. يَقُولُونَ الْحَقِّ. They even say the truth. Not everything they say is wrong. They say right things. وَيَقْرَؤُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. And they recite the Quran. That's their display of Islam. They appear to be Muslims. They act like Muslims. وَيَمْرُقُونَ مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ. And they go out of Islam. يَمْرُقُون. They come out. They exit. They go out of Islam. وَلَا يَتَعَلَّقُونَ مِنْهُ بِشَيْءٍ. And nothing of it sticks to them. Or more exact translation, and they don't stick to any of it. They don't stick to any of it. So that's clear hadith there. And it is known that they did not deem the Muslims' blood and money lawful except by a mistake from what they have misinterpreted of the verses of the Quran, according to other than what was intended. This last part, we don't need to talk about that right now. Most important thing is two things. One, this hadith. That's the most important thing here. This hadith. And number two, the citation of the scholar for what this hadith proves. And this is really the citation of two scholars. And both of those scholars are massive scholars. Al-Tabari himself is a mujtahid from the Salaf. So you don't get grander than that. And Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, subhanallah, yani, who knows who he is, knows. So this is their position. This is correct. So some people, they call us takfiris. And it's going to be because they themselves didn't learn the rules of blasphemy. They think that it's more difficult to blaspheme than what we present. And it's easier actually to blaspheme than to believe. It's actually easier to blaspheme than to believe. How is it easier to blaspheme than to believe? Because blasphemy can happen with a single word, while believing needs several words. To believe, you'd say, no one is God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. That's easy. But to blaspheme, you might just say no, and then you'll be a kafir. Or you might say yes, and then you'll be a kafir. Or you might say why, and then you'll be a kafir. Depends on what's the issue there. One word. Or you might not even say anything. You might not even say anything and only have kufr in your heart, and you'll still be a kafir. Whereas to be a believer, even if you have it in your heart, it won't be valid until you speak. So blasphemy is easier than believing. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Like, do you think it's because of like the lack of knowledge nowadays? Because like I feel like a lot of people, like if they say explicit blasphemy and you judge them as being a blasphemer, they'll just argue with you constantly, saying how you can't judge them and this and that.
Yeah, for sure, it's the ignorance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's like so many people are like that. So many of them, right?
That's the time we live in.
Yeah.
It's the time of ignorance. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إن الله لا يقبض العلم انتزاعا ينتزعه من العباد. Indeed, Allah does not strip the knowledge from the slaves. ولكن يقبض العلم بقبض العلماء. Rather, he takes the knowledge by making scholars die. حتى لم يبق عالما, until he doesn't leave any scholars remaining. And that could be in any place. Doesn't have to mean all over the world. Just in
Yeah.
any location. If there's no scholars there, the people will be lost.
Yeah.
اتخذ الناس رؤوسا جهالا. The people will take ignorant heads for themselves. فسئلوا فأفتوا بغير علم. And those ignorant heads will be asked, and they give answers without knowledge. فضلوا وأضلوا. And so they go astray, and they mislead others. That's the time. And there's more hadiths like this. That's the time we live in now. We live in a time of ignorance among Muslims. This is one of the signs, one of the small signs of Resurrection Day. The spread of the ignorance in the nation of Muhammad. This nation was never ignorant like this before. Inshallah, they won't be ignorant like this again. Although there will come a time when the people won't know the rules of inheritance anymore. The Prophet said so.
Yeah, inshallah.
Now, so the acceptance in the heart of blasphemy is only conditional in the case of compulsion. Ikrah, coercion, being forced, by credible death threat. Being delighted in the heart is not a condition for falling into blasphemy by the consensus. That's what we said. Being delighted is not a condition. What did we say up here? It is not a condition that one must have liked the meanings of what he said. Being delighted in the heart is not a condition for falling into blasphemy by consensus. The condition is what we started with. To say the blasphemy willingly, understanding its meaning, without a slip of the tongue, without being forced, without being crazy. Mullah Ali al-Qari, he said in his explanation of Al-Fiqh al-Akbar by Imam Abu Hanifa, he said in the book Hawi al-Fatawa, should be a line under this H too, Hawi al-Fatawa, it says, whoever blasphemes with his tongue while his heart is tranquil with belief is a blasphemer. Anyone who blasphemes with his tongue while his heart is firm with belief, when it comes to what is the right belief, his heart is at peace. However, his tongue says kufr. That means he's saying what he doesn't believe. Then what's his case? He is a blasphemer and he is not a believer to Allah. He is a blasphemer and he is not a believer to Allah. That's what Mullah Ali al-Qari said, the Hanafi. And that's what we say. That's correct rule. This is known from what is understood by the saying of Allah, من كفر بالله من بعد إيمانه إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان ولكن من شرح بالكفر صدرا فعليهم غضب من الله ولهم عذاب عظيم. Whoever blasphemes in Allah after having belief deserves the torture of Allah, except he who is compelled while his heart is tranquil with belief. So the point here is, the ayah makes takfir on whoever commits kufr unless he were someone compelled. In other words, the ayah did not excuse anyone from deliberately saying kufr except the one who was forced to do so And this means by credible death threat, not by your money being threatened, not by your freedom being threatened, not by your chastity being threatened, not by the chastity of your wife or your child being threatened. None of that is an excuse to say blasphemy. And not for being tortured. Like they say, we're going to beat you. If you don't say kufr, we're going to hit you again and again and again. This broken bone of yours, we're going to keep hitting it until you say the kufr. So you cannot say the kufr under torture that's not lethal.
So Sheikh, so like, how do you determine if the torture is lethal? Like, if he said, like, I'm gonna pull out your eyeball, right? Like,
that's not lethal.
That's not lethal, right? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Or he said, I'm going to pull your teeth out. I'm going to pull your nails out. None of that's lethal.
Okay.
But if he says, I'm going to cut off your arms and legs, that's lethal.
Okay, got it.
If he said, I'm going to cut off your finger, that's not lethal.
Yeah. Okay.
So what is understood is that the one who is not compelled while his heart is tranquil with belief, yani despite that his heart is tranquil with belief, despite that his heart is at peace with the right religion, but he said blasphemy without being compelled to do so, he blasphemes. That's what's understood from the ayah, because what's actually stated in the ayah is that the one who is forced while his heart is tranquil does not blaspheme. Yani the ayah is qualified. Illa, except. Illa man ukrih, except the one who was compelled. So, without that except, then it means open. Yani, all inclusive. So it means whoever commits kufr willingly, he's going to blaspheme. So what limits that? This exclusion here in the ayah. Illa man ukrih, except the one who was compelled. That one is the one who's excused. So this verse is evidence against those who use it to excuse a person from blasphemy if he did not intend to exit Islam. Yeah, meaning out of those ignorant ones are those who actually produce this very ayah to excuse a person from blasphemy without being forced. So you're going to tell him, this ayah is not evidence for you because yani, you're using the ayah completely out of its context. It says, illa man ukriha, except who was compelled. We're not dealing with a compelled person here. We're dealing with a person here because he didn't learn and he wasn't concerned enough about his religion. He committed blasphemy. He didn't know, but he said what he wanted to say, so he's not excused. Even though he didn't intend to go out of Islam and he didn't intend to enter into another religion. He did go out of Islam. According to one method of classification. So now we finished talking about the condition. Most of this talk here is what is actually the condition of blasphemy. Now we talked about it. So what are the kinds of blasphemy? According to one method of classification, there are two kinds of blasphemy. So there's different ways to classify it. Right now we want to talk about how to classify kufr. We finished talking about the conditions of kufr. How do you classify it or categorize it? There are different ways. So we have several of the ways that it has been classified. And I have another document also with more classifications of blasphemy. So according to one method of classification, there are two types of blasphemy. Shirk and non-shirk. Shirk, which is associating partners with Allah, and non-shirk, which is a blasphemy other than associating partners with Allah. So shirk is like idol worship, fire worship, or believing that Allah is a body, anthropomorphism, or that he dwells in bodies. That's what some people would call being a god body. That's shirk. And actually, at the same time, that's a kind of atheism. Those people who believe in God bodies, they are a kind of atheists. Although they say God is in me, or they say I am God in flesh. Uh, so they mean God is in me, or something close to that. When they say I am God, they might mean God is in me, or they might mean like God is basically, since he's in me, then I take on his attribute of being God or a God. So all that is definitely blasphemy. And then as a result of this belief, he's going to believe he can do anything he wants to do. And he's going to believe he doesn't have any obligations. And he's going to believe there's no one over him. So that's the atheist right there. That's the atheist angle, the atheistic angle of this conviction there. Or believing that Allah is one with the entire world. That's called pantheism. Pantheism. Believing that God and the world are one and the same. Or the belief in the Trinity. That's shirk. To say uh, God is God the Father, and Jesus is God the Son, and the Holy Spirit is something. Uh, this is blasphemy and shirk and a very unintelligent conviction. Because what does it mean? It means they said God is the Father, God is God the Father, and Jesus is God the Son. They say, but there's only one God, so they confirm two while believing those two are one. So that's crazy. And they believe that one of those two, who happen to be the same thing, is the father of the other, and that the other one of those two who are the same thing is the son of the other. And so therefore they believe that God is his own father and his own son. But not just that, but they believe that this son of God is God's son without God being married to the mother of this son. So they believe that God's son is a bastard child, but they don't say that, but that's what it means. And not just that, but this bastard child that they believe in, uh, his mother is actually God's daughter, and so God, according to them, had a child with his own daughter, and so the Son of God is also God's grandson, so that God is his own father and his own son and his own grandfather and his own grandson all at the same time. So that's definitely blasphemy. Or the claim that the human creates his own deeds. That's a shirk, because creating is only for Allah. So to believe that a human can create his own actions is equating between the creation and the creator, giving them the same attribute, the attribute of creating. Or the belief in two gods, one who's a light who creates good and another who is a darkness who creates evil. That's the belief of some religions, not not a, not ascribed to Islam. Religions that are not affiliated with Islam. The Majus religion. So all of that is shirk, associating partners with Allah, or idolatry, or polytheism. And like the religion of the Hindus, who believe in many, they worship many, many, many things. Rats, and they got the famous rat temples, or temple. You see the rat poop is floating around in the milk, and then they drink the milk for blessings. And they worship the cows, and they follow the cow, wait for them to urinate, so they cup their hands and capture some of that and splash it and maybe sip it too. Wal-iyadhu billah. And other things that they worship, including statues, including imaginary things like the purple six-armed elephant head man, and also his mother, the six-armed lady. Wal-iyadhu billahi ta'ala. Now, examples of the second, which is non-shirk blasphemy, is like insulting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or belittling the religion, or contradicting what is commonly known to be of the religion. According to another classification, another way to classify blasphemy, there are three types. Tashbih, comparing God to the creations. Takdhib, contradicting the religion. And ta'til, atheism. So the first one, tashbih, is like believing that Allah has a body, or in a place, or that he has organs, or emotions, or that he changes. And all of that is what? Shirk. So tashbih is shirk. The second one, which is belying the religion, contradicting the religion, is like denying the obligation of the prayers and denying the prohibition of wine. These things are known in the religion, their rule is known in the religion by necessity. It's common religious knowledge. So denying that is blasphemy. Unless you're a new Muslim, then we will tell you, you cannot deny these matters, and we'll teach you and then forbid you from this denial without deeming you as a kafir. Or if you're like a new Muslim, that means ignorant like a new Muslim. You never heard the rule before, even if you're not a new Muslim. And then you spoke out of ignorance, which is haram, and you denied something that you shouldn't have denied. Out of your ignorance that's so deep that it's like you're a new Muslim, then uh, then we will not deem you as a kafir. We will teach you and forbid you from this denial. And the third kind, which is here the atheism, denying the attributes of Allah, is like denying that Allah exists altogether. That's clear, blatant atheism. Or denying that Allah has power over the deeds of the slaves. That means someone believes that he creates his own actions without God's power over him. That's blasphemy, and that leads to atheism. So from one perspective, that's atheism, because it's a denial of God's power. Denial of his power is, by extension, denial of his existence. And from another perspective, it's a paganism, because it's giving the slave the attribute of God, thereby giving God a comparison and a partner. So some blasphemies are worse than others. Or denying that Allah has power over evil. Someone believes God doesn't create evil. Then it means he believes that evil was created not by God's power. Then it means he believes in another creator. Then it means that he believes in a partner for God. Then it means that he's a blasphemer. Or to deny that Allah knows the details of everything. That's from philosophers. Some philosophers who thought they were clever, they said, God only knows things in general, doesn't know them in detail. That's blasphemy. Or denying that Allah has uncreated speech. If someone says God doesn't even have any speech, he's not attributed with speech, that's blasphemy too, a denial of his attribute. Then here's another way to classify blasphemy. A third classification has blasphemy also of 3 types. So the first way we classified it had blasphemy of 2 types. All of it summarized into 2 types. Then another way we summarized all the blasphemy into 3 types. Now here's the third way that also summarizes all the blasphemy into 3 types. Beliefs, actions, and sayings. And this is according to all the 4 schools, consensus of the 4 schools. And beyond the 4 schools too agree with this. And when it comes to categorizing blasphemy in this way, then we're going to say each one of these is independent of the other. So a person will blaspheme for blasphemous belief, even if he doesn't act on that belief and even if he doesn't speak about it. And he will blaspheme for blasphemous action, even if he doesn't believe in it and even if he doesn't speak about it. And he will blaspheme for a blasphemous saying, even if he doesn't believe in it and even if he doesn't act on it. And then we have examples here. Like likening Allah to the creations. So that's tashbih. And tashbih is shirk. So you see how they all overlap here. Or denying his attributes. That's ta'til, which is atheism. Or denying prophethood. That's a non-shirk blasphemy. Or believing that a religion other than Islam is valid. Or denying in the heart what is known by necessity. That's contradicting the religion. The second is like prostrating to a creation, no matter the intention, except a human. Other than a human. Prostrating to a human is not blasphemy unless you're worshiping him. But prostrating to other than a human is blasphemy, and we don't even care what your intention is. Doesn't matter. It's blasphemy. That falls under what we said here. To do what only a blasphemer does is blasphemy. To willingly do what only a blasphemer does. Like what? Like prostrating to anything other than a human.
And that's also like, I think you mentioned the example earlier. If a person dressed up in like their uniform or their clothing and went into their like their places of worship, right? Like the church
and mingled with them.
Okay, and mingled with them. Okay, got it.
And that's how Sheikh taught us this case. Okay, he wore the uniform. That means their special uniform. Not talking about you just put on a blazer and a tie.
No, yeah, exactly. He put on like their uniform with the cross and all that other kind of stuff.
For example, right? Like if this uniform has a special collar, or this uniform is like a robe with a special sash, or the like.
Yeah.
Or this uniform is like some kind of hood, for example.
It's like a priest uniform, for example, right?
Yeah,
like,
for example.
Yeah.
Or like the some of those Buddhists, they have like some orange thing they wear.
Yeah. I see that.
Yeah, the uniform. So to
Yeah.
wear the uniform, to go with that uniform into the place of worship of those people, and then to mingle with them. This is how the Sheikh taught us this case, that this is kufr.
Okay. What does mingling mean exactly? Like, if the if that person thought he was
Mixing
like
with them.
oh, okay, okay,
Mixing with them and interacting with them.
okay, got it. Okay.
Uh, so, yeah, that's blasphemy of action, or like throwing away what's religiously respectable, like a Quran or an Islamic book, while knowing what it is. And the third one, which is the blasphemous sayings, is like calling a Muslim a kafir, but without an excuse to do so, and without any confusion. This case, though, needs to be explained. Or belittling Allah or His Messenger or His religion by the tongue is blasphemy. But this case here about calling a Muslim a kafir, it needs to be explained so that it's clear what's the blasphemy here and what's not blasphemy here. And then the next paragraph we have here talks about whether the statement is explicit blasphemy or not.
Yeah. I wonder if you can answer one question for me.
Yeah.
I think I asked you this through an email, but maybe you can explain it to me.
Okay.
Online, so I understand it. So it's about like an action, right? So if a person had a job, right, and his job entailed selling material to for projects, right? To other companies, right? Like installing companies that install the product. So, for example, if he sold like flooring, I know if he did it for a church, since that's their place of worship, it'd be blasphemy, right?
Wait, if you did it
yeah.
for a church, but just because it's their place of worship doesn't mean something. Meaning.
But isn't that helping them like build it? Isn't that helping them build
Yeah,
it?
but doesn't mean something. Meaning, when I say something, I mean, for example, what if a person, he's a worker, and when he gets the opportunity for a job, he takes it. What he cares about is money. He always, when he finds opportunity to make money, he's going to take it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't think, what is he doing here?
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He doesn't say this is a place of blasphemy. It's not. Doesn't even cross his mind. For example, all that crosses his mind is he got an order now. These people want me to do something. I got to fix their floor. I got to fix their toilet. They need. So then we're not going to say he committed kufr here.
Okay. Yeah. But if it did cross his mind, hey, this is a place of worship, I'll be helping them, then if he did it, that would be blasphemy, right?
That depends on what he believes. If he believes about himself that he is helping them commit blasphemy, then to do it would be blasphemy. But also, he might not necessarily believe that what he's doing is helping them commit blasphemy. Like he might say, oh, this place, I don't know what they're going to do right here. For all I know, this is a community center here. For all I know, this is, I don't know what they do here.
Like, so the church example, like, the way I see it, it's only a place for blasphemy, right? But another example,
stop, hold on right there. That's not the case. Could be other than a place of blasphemy.
Meaning, really, a church?
Yeah. Because, for example, what if somebody had to go to AA meetings? The judge told him, "You're gonna go to the AA meeting, or I'm gonna put you in jail." So he says, "Okay," and then he looks into it, and they said, "Okay, these meetings are being held at such and such church."
Yeah.
So then it's not blasphemy. Okay. They're not doing blasphemy in there. It's a church, but they're not using it for blasphemy.
Got it. But like the other thing I had was a Catholic school, right? Right. I mean, a Catholic school, I never understood it to be a place of blasphemy. I just understood it. Hey, it's a place for Christian kids, So
that goes back to what we were saying. You're gonna judge something as kufr when it's clear, explicit, undeniable blasphemy. And the questions you're asking me, they are good questions, really, because, it's important if a person wants to understand rules of blasphemy well,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
understand when a case is clear or not. This is where most of the questions of blasphemy are, because the people doesn't register for them that something is clear or not.
for sure. It's about myself, really, to be honest with you, because I do work, right, in construction, and I sell material, right. So like, these questions literally came up to my mind like a year ago, right. So I've been trying to avoid, like, I strictly avoid churches, working on church projects, but it's
Yes.
the Catholic schools that kind of like make me like, I don't know, think twice, because I don't know if it's a place. Like, I don't think it's a place for worship. I think it's just like an educational facility, right? Kind of like a
So
public.
based on the rule,
Yeah,
let's take yourself out of it and just say someone.
yeah, yeah,
So if this were someone's case, means then he doesn't believe about himself that he's helping someone commit blasphemy.
yeah.
So we're not going to say he committed blasphemy for taking the job.
Okay, okay.
We were asking, we would say, what blasphemy? These people, are they learning their ABCs here?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They're doing some play or something. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, yeah,
And maybe they got a basketball team. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that's what it means to be not clear, not explicit blasphemy. Meaning when you're able to take something more than one way. That's how you got to look at it. Am
got
I
it.
able to take this issue more than one way? If so, then it's not explicit.
Okay, okay, got it. But it's like, so okay, so last thing with this question. So if it's not clear, right? And you're like, hey, like, right? To me, it's not clear. I'm gonna sell this product to this Catholic school or whatever. But like, how do you know what's clear for you or not? Like someone else tells you, hey, this is blasphemy because it's a Catholic school, but you're thinking for yourself, hey, it's not, right? Because it can go both ways,
It's
right?
going to be by having knowledge and comprehension.
Okay.
Because some of the people, they cannot detect what's clear and what's not clear. Like an example is something that just transpired in our conversation now. So you
Yeah.
said to me that you see that a church is merely and only a place of blasphemy, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's not necessarily the case. So it was for you, and from your own perspective, clear for you that this
Yeah.
clear blasphemy until something was brought to your attention. And then you were able to see that, okay, so actually this is something that could be taken more than one way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
If someone is a taxi cab driver and someone told
Yeah.
them, take me to the church. That's all he said. He didn't say take me to the church to worship there.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's not explicit, clear blasphemy, and he's not able to help him here.
Yeah, yeah. But even if it's like supplying material, not just taking something, just like supplying material, for example, right?
You don't know
That's,
what they're going to do with that material.
yeah.
Yani, and it's not just not to mention that you said supplier. You didn't say you're actually installer.
Because I have an idea what they're gonna do with it. Like I know, like, cause I'm looking at drawings and stuff, so I know like which rooms they're gonna be using it for, right? Like,
Okay.
so I have an idea, right?
So it's going to go back to your own conviction, though.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you did believe that this is a case that's going to be helping someone commit blasphemy, then for sure you cannot get involved in it. If you
Okay,
said, for example, I have no idea, I don't know what they're going to do.
yeah.
So then it's
Yeah.
not blasphemy
Okay, got it.
if you were to get involved in that.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Makes sense, sure.
But
Yeah,
you,
that makes sense. Barakallahu feek.
I mean, Wafiq.